to me, that's not being a lifelong learner, and it's not helping them to become a productive citizen.
Superintendent Schneckloff.
I just want to clarify that not every senior is taking the path that you're describing. Is that accurate, John?
Not every senior is taking that pathway, correct?
I just don't want the image to be portrayed that in Davenport only seniors only take half of a caseload. No, and want to reiterate to your point that we want our students to maximize every minute that they have with Davenport schools. With their opportunities inside of our walls and outside of our walls, there's a reason why people are freed up for apprenticeships, for work-based learning experiences, for college tours, things of that nature. And so the sentiment I think we need to carry is that we want our students to take full advantage of the opportunities that they have inside of our walls. And so that sentiment is loud and clear.
Any other discussion? Director Kleindrum.
I have a question. So hopefully not, but let's say a student fails, let's say English class. What part, like if they failed 2/4 of it, they would have to repeat that part of it, or would it have to be for the whole year? How is that going to play out, having to repeat classes?
Absolutely, that's a great question, and we do have a planning meeting on Thursday on hold, depending on tonight's outcome. But the process that we can do is it provides the more flexibility. So if English is for the full year, we could do it by term, 0.25 credit per term, and then the student would take the term over that they failed. Would be a possibility that we could include within the schedule. So it would be a response to the student needs.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? I do want to say, I think some of the comments that were made makes it sound like a lot of our seniors do half days. From a parent of a senior this year and a graduate already, our son took co-op classes and things like that, and he is a very productive citizen. Matter of fact, he's over building some stuff on, a new John Deere extension. So I want to make sure that, that's not like all of our seniors are doing that, because that's kind of the way it felt we were saying. So I don't want legislators grabbing onto something like that and saying, oh, well, we're doing certain things like that. If there's no other discussion, Director Beck.
I did want to say that I think one of the strengths of this proposed schedule is that some of the core courses, math, English language, are full year. And I think that's really important, considering the learning gaps that we know, or the learning loss we know happens over a summer. And it's just exacerbated when it happens over when we have an entire year between courses. So I do think that is one of the strengths. So thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 10.0?
Davenport Company in the amount of $33,980.75 in regards to the West High HVAC upgrades.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Director Poston?
I'd like a definition of contingency allowance. When I read through this, I wasn't quite clear. So could I have an explanation on that?
Sure. Each project that we do, we go into it not knowing what's behind the walls, what's on top of the roof, what's under the membrane. Josh will be able to jump in, help me out here, Josh. So when we come into it, the engineers, when they build something, and then when the actual installers get there, They might get into something, they might both agree that there's a better way to do something without knowing until you start tearing into the building. So they build in contingencies that allow us, when we get to that spot, yeah, we all agree that we want to make this adjustment. In this instance, that's what occurred here. It was a better product, a better utilization of the system, a better install all the way around, and all three parties agreed that this is a good use of those contingencies. Josh, is that
Yeah, essentially that's correct. And it's not necessarily increasing our budget. It's not jumping on top of what we already had budgeted. It's just a spend on top of what the bids were.
Thank you.
Director Beck.
I guess I'm just a little confused as how this is different from a change order. If you guys could clarify that.
It's essentially a change order. It's just a different wording of it. It's a change order. The reason they call it a contingency allowance is because that's what we're using as our contingency money we had budgeted for these type of situations.
That was yours. Director Barnes.
That was a helpful clarification. This was already approved, budgeted. All you're coming back and indicating this that this was part of the approved contingency associated with the project, correct?
Correct.
Not additional. Okay, that's helpful.
Director Poston.
But the way I read it, though, there's no additional dollars.
We're not spending more dollars than what we had budgeted. So
For
what's
for the overall project or for just in this case here?
for the overall project, we're still spending under what we budgeted or what we originally talked about for being the budget for the project. We aren't increasing that dollar amount at all.
I have a question. Okay, so we pay engineers to do this, and I'm not a rocket science. I'm not an engineer, but I mean, just being an average person, if I was going to hook something to a joist, I know in my mind, whether you do it in a house or whatever, that has to be beefed up. Essentially, the engineer dropped the ball on this, and they didn't do the job that we paid them to do. Is that a correct statement?
I would say in this case, they made a mistake and missed the way it should have been drawn up, and a contractor pointed out to them that there may be a better way to do it. So they made changes to the structure to make sure we were
So this is the thing I preach on all the time. This happens all the time. Like when we add brick to a facade at Brady Street, well, no duh, that adds more weight. I mean, we need to start being more intentional with this stuff. We're going to spend a bunch of money. And I stress this to you guys all the time, and I feel you overlook what I say 100%, and don't tell me any different because it happens. This pisses me off to no end that we allow this stuff to happen. I mean, it's a no-brainer. That should have been beefed up. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Just more diligence to this stuff. We're going to spend a bunch of money building 2 schools here and all this other stuff. And I see these other projects not moving along, but that's off topic. Is there any other discussion on this? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Aye. All right, may I have a motion on subject 10.03, renewal of project search partnership with Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services?
Mr. Chairman,
Director Poston.
move the board approve the contract with Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services for the St. Ambrose Silvercrest Garner Senior Living Project Search Partnership in the amount of $168,971.56.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? The only thing I want to say, this is a phenomenal program, and I'm glad we're doing this stuff. All right. Seeing and hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 10.04, policies for board approval?
Mr. President,
Director Klein Jerome.
I move that we approve the following policies: 501.09, 505.02, 606.06, 901, 403.06, 405.06, 411.05, 505.04, 603.06, 506.01, 506.04, 103.02, 106, 602.01, 602.04, 603.02, 603.03, 603.07, 603.08, 603.09, 603.10, 604.02, 604.03, 604.04, 604.07, 604.08, 604.09, 604.11, and 604.14. Yeah. Would you like me to say it again?
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? You wanted to reread all those numbers? All right. Seeing and hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. We'll move on to discussion items. Up first, we have subject 11.01, purchase of 3 cargo vans. Josh, I'll turn it over to you.
So there's 3 vans we'd like to replace in our maintenance fleet. These vans are used for like carpenters, plumbers, electricians. They just keep all, just like anybody would see it pull up to your house. They got all their stuff in the back of them. As you can see, they have quite a few miles on them. They're not new anymore. So we're just looking to replace them as kind of a normal replacement thing. We got 3 bids on them. Linquist gave us the best price locally. We budgeted for these in Pepple to do this kind of as our annual replacement. I believe these would be Ford Transit vans. Any questions around those?
Director Klein Jerome.
Do we trade in our old vans, or is there some state law about how you get rid of it, or can we trade them in and get some money back? Or
We do them different ways. Sometimes it kind of depends, but we sometimes sell them on govdeals.com. We'll post them and take bids on them online, and other times we trade them in. We try to do what we think will give us the best deal. If a dealership won't give us anything for them, it might be best for us to put them up online for auction. But yep.
Any other? Director Beck.
Just out of curiosity, do the transit vans tend to be taller, right, and narrower? Are they as good at hauling the things we need hauled as the Econoline vans, which were sort of broader and bulkier? Or, I mean, are they working out equivalently?
Yeah, I mean, you can see how long we've kept them. They've done a pretty good job. We haven't had many issues with
But I
them.
mean, like the newer vans, are they able to haul the same type of stuff and the same amount of stuff?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay.
I feel like they do just fine. Yep. The older ones are probably a little bit heavier and beefier than
Less
the newer
fuel
ones,
efficient.
but yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Do these they don't have shelves and stuff? That stuff gets transferred from the old vans. Is that like a different purchase order or something?
You're exactly right. Sometimes we transfer them. It kind of depends on the condition they're in. Right now, most of these vans have stuff stacked on them. I mean, we won't know the great condition of them until we kind of open up and get some things moved out of them. But sometimes we do it separately.
Is the stuff transferable from, like, I'm assuming they got
All the
ladder
equipment.
racks and stuff, so everything can move to the new van?
Everything we can move, we move, including equipment inside of them, supplies. Actually, it's a great opportunity to clean out a van.
Yeah. And anything else you need for that, it doesn't come to the board. That's already built in the budget.
Yeah, it won't be a high
Okay.
enough bid thing like that. It'll be something smaller.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Any other information board members need to take action on this at the next regular board meeting, the 23rd? Yeah, 23rd. All right, thank you. Next subject for discussion is 11.02 policies. I will turn it over to Vice President Klein Jerome.
so we only have 4 for discussion. Anybody have any questions, concerns? Director Barnes?
Perhaps this is just for my own curiosity, but are there examples, this is either for the superintendent or for you, of religious-based excuses from school program or activity? And I recognize that we are complying with Iowa law, but I am curious about what might be some of those scenarios.
Yes, there's, for example, the music programs, the human growth development lessons, things of that nature. They're like in my time, there, you might be reading a certain type of passage or a book that the parents can see, and they say they don't want their child to participate in this due to religious reasons. Any other reasons or examples?
Yeah, I was going to go with head coverings, potentially. Also, swimming, co-ed swimming for some religious groups would be an issue. I think we're looking at books, reading a particular book with particular subject matter that's even, not, it would still meet Iowa code for an expectation, but it would not meet the personal expectation.
Any other questions, Director Beck?
So the private instruction policy, I know it reflects Iowa law. Is this a mandatory policy? And number 2, how is this different from what we would think of as homeschool? If at all. And then is there any, it just says this is what it is. There's no requirements other than somebody has to say that they meet for a certain amount of time during a school year. Is there, I guess, how is this different from homeschooling is my first question.
There are some differences, and I can gather that information, put it in the Friday report if you need.
And I guess mainly it's the licensed person, but it says it could also be provided by a parent, guardian, or legal custodian. So I guess I'm trying to figure out how it's different from that, and I guess what the purpose of the policy really is, because it doesn't say, there's no, you have to do this. There's no way to demonstrate or method to say we're keeping up, we're keeping track, right?
There are times where in extreme discipline situations where we utilize this type.
Okay.
So there are times when we do utilize this, but I'll gather some more information for a Friday report.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, anything else from our discussion that we had? I think I'm missing something. Nope.
Anybody else? I'd just like to clarify the licensed employee compensation for extra duty. Having taught in this district a long time, I was kind of surprised when this says you post the positions. If no licensed employee volunteers for extra duties, the superintendent will assign the extra duty positions to qualified licensed employees. How often have you actually said to somebody you're going to do it? Okay.
Never.
That was my experience, and so I was surprised that this language is in here. There are certain things in the contract that have to go together, but
there are instances where we have to fill a position after school. We have to do things, and so typically, almost 100% of the time, in my experience, we go and work with an employee, and they're like, "Yeah, I'll do it until you can figure it out." And that's typically how that's done.
okay.
And I asked Jamie a reflection on that, and she said that's basically how it goes too. If we can't find somebody, the building works through on how to accomplish that until the position's filled in a collaborative manner. But this policy allows us, if we ever get to the end of the road, we're like, someone's going to do this, but we never get there.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, concerns? These four will come up for a vote at our next meeting.
Thank you, Vice President Klein Jerome. We will move on to administrative reports.
None at this time.
Are there any board requests? Yes, sir. Uh-oh. All right, name a board member making the request, Director Barnes, date of request 9/9/2024, unless you want to future date it. Item request is an agenda item, description of a request. Review of safety and communication procedure and what is that? And
I'm sorry, Dan. And precautions for high school.
precautions for high schools and middle schools. Why are you making this request? Would like to know what detection equipment and entry points of our schools, high school and middle schools. This already ties into my board request from before, and we're working on that. But when would you like this? Within the next 2 months, if possible. There already is a board request on this that I did. But if you want me to ask for a second on this, and you got twice. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. Any other board request? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to board reflections. We will start with Director Barnes.
The approval of the 95% plan for Sudlow is huge. And I think we should have taken a moment to celebrate that. This is a huge investment in our community and our students. And hopefully Sudlow Middle School becomes a standard for all of the QCA middle schools to aspire to. That's an exciting moment. And I hope we all take a moment to celebrate that.
Thank you, Director Barnes. Director Potts.
62 million reasons to celebrate. That's a lot of cabbage.
Thank you, Director Potts. Director Klein Jerome.
It is pretty exciting that by the end of October, we will have bids and get started on this. We've talked about it for, seems like many months. And I'm also happy that we approved 29 policies tonight.
All right, thank you, Director Klein Jerome. Director Beck.
I agree with the Sudlow change. I'm excited to see it. I happen to have a kid who will be taking advantage of that, which is awesome. But I also am really looking forward to seeing how things change as we make sure that our high school students are getting those core courses all year, and looking at how we can maintain and add a level of rigor that perhaps was getting lost or potentially could get lost for some people, but also keeping the great tradition of having students be able to participate in band, choir, music, art programs, and beginning trades programs. So I think it's a nice, what's the word I'm looking for? Blend of all the things that we value in this district. So I look forward to seeing how things change.
Thank you, Director Beck. Director Poston.
Yeah, I agree. The Sudlow project is a really big deal, and followed up right behind that with the SMART project. So I think we should be excited about what is going to happen here and take place in the next few years. The discussion on the new high school schedule. I want to thank the administrators for all the time. I know this was not an easy task, and appreciate all the time and effort that you put into this. And it remains to be seen how it works out. I'm sure there'll be some glitches along the way, but I admire you for the time that you put into this.
Thank you, Director Poston. Director Hayes.
The Sudlow project, of course, is exciting, but I also was excited with the renewal of the project search to assist the students with disabilities at St. Ambrose, and just watching them go through that little program and watching their excitement. This makes me happy that we can continue on with it.
Thank you, Director Hayes. Superintendent Schneckloff.
I agree that this is a chapter in our long range facility plan. I also know that while we may have some change orders that come through and they're painful, our staff is diligently paying attention, working hard. The last thing we want to do is bring a change order or anything to this table. And so we know the history, we know where we've been, we know where we're going. And I take great pride in the work that they're doing. And we know what's going to happen when we bring one here, but we do everything in our power to prevent that. The pictures and updates that I get from Joe Reagan walking the sites, Josh walking the sites on a daily basis. And you're right, Dan, that stuff does happen. And we're doing everything in our power to prevent it. As a matter of fact, we're going to be adding a temporary staff member to help Josh and Joe, because they can't do it by themselves. And I just had Josh put a hard hat in my truck, and so I'm going to start weekly walkthroughs of each one of the sites. And so we know how important that is to our school board to be fiscally responsible. We hate bringing them here, and they're working really hard to make sure of that. And we're going to keep doing that because we know why that's really, really important. And so we are going to continue to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. And I'm not even going to get sideways with you on this. I'm going to let you have your moment. When you start doing those visits, you let me know.
Just give me a punch list.
Again, I think it was a great discussion tonight. I'll echo what Director Hayes said. I think the Project Search is an awesome program. I'm glad that we're renewing that. Awesome things coming for Sudlow, and then right after that, shortly, will be the SMART project. So hopefully all the architects and contractors heard me get a little sideways here, and they'll start sharpening their pencils and do what we pay them to do. With that, Director Potts, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Thank you. I'm assuming there's no discussion. All right, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries, meeting adjourned.